This is Off the Break Podcast, presented by Silver Screen Insider.
And we're back at Off the Break Podcast. We had a small hiatus last week, but we're back. I'm Cody. With me are Kyle and Ken.
Hello again, guys. It's been a while.
K2s. Don't
Just
you
kidding.
dare.
Just kidding.
Don't do that.
Yeah, you should see Kyle right now.
I only have my hands covered with gloves. I don't have my face covered yet. Keeping my distance from you nasties.
He's currently wearing his t-shirt up over his nose.
No.
It's amazing that they can hear me through the mic.
No, we missed last week's podcast. We said we would be here through thick and thin, but it was just crazy.
It got real thick real quick.
It did. It did. And now our state, like many other states, has declared a shelter in place, and it goes into effect at 12:01 a.m. Saturday. So here we are Friday doing our last podcast.
There's still time, so here it is.
Who knows how long. Because we haven't figured out how to Skype in for our podcast yet.
Again, we don't have that money or technology to be all fancy with podcasts. So
unless we want to risk it on the shelter in place, we may or may not be here next week.
So just fair warning, we said we'd be with you through thick and thin, but it's getting really thick and we might not be able to.
That's a little dark foreshadowing. We may or may not be here next week.
May not be here next week.
Dun, dun, dun.
But we are all three healthy, so that's good. And we're just, trying to get through this. I don't know how long I'm going to be healthy. I've got people in and out of my construction zone of my house. It's very disturbing, but it's okay.
I fear for you both.
All different colors of phlegm and mucus pouring out of these people.
Stop it. No, they've all been really healthy.
Allegedly.
So healthy. Their beer bellies sticking over their belts. Very healthy.
All that alcohol in their system.
I don't think
clear out any bug.
I don't think the coronavirus has anything to do with that.
Yeah. Well, we don't have much to report on when it comes to movie theaters. Theaters across the nation have been closed.
Mm-hmm.
Of the ones that could remain open, no one is really going, so they've voluntarily chosen to close down. But for the most part, I would say in 95% of the cases, they've been ordered to close.
Yeah, that's probably the safe assumption.
That whether it was local government, state government, or I don't think the federal government hasn't done a blanket one yet. So it's all local and state governments.
Yeah, it should be.
They've all been limited to 10 people, and usually that means you can't keep the lights on with just 10 people in the theater. So that's been really scary because I'm sure, as our listeners have heard 100 times over, it's unprecedented. It's never happened in the history of filmmaking, in the history of cinema, and it's just so crazy this time what's happening.
Yeah, to shut down even post-production is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like 5 people locked in a room for an unlimited amount of hours.
Right.
It's like, nope, you can't even edit your movies on our lot.
Yeah. Stay away. Stay home.
Yeah.
No, and it's on such a global scale. And then, China was trying to reopen some of their films or some of their theaters. And it was maybe a kind of a light on the horizon that, if we can get through 3 months, maybe there's, success in sight. But now they've shut them back down because they don't want to reinfect everybody. So it is definitely a scary time. We were hoping that it would just be a 2-week shutdowns or a very limited time. But I think what's happened is as this progresses and you've gotten longer and longer mandatory shutdowns, is now the film companies have taken the films that were on the release schedule and either taken them off completely in a yet to be determined release date change, or they've moved it back to August or later. And right now, if you were looking at the release schedule, there have been no new major releases since March 20th. Mm-hmm. And there will not be one until Trolls World Tour, but Universal made the decision to go premium video on demand, day and date with theatrical releases, because and they made the announcement before most theaters in the US had closed.
Yeah.
And so they were, in anticipation of most theaters closing, they made this policy change, but also as a got you over the barrel, like, you can't fight us on this one.
Yeah. Do you think that's kind of upsetting theaters that
it's
this
terrible.
policy has happened?
Yeah, because they did it, for one, on a kids movie. And kids movies are great for theaters. You end up selling more in the concession stands. Family movies are just better. More people come. They buy more in the concessions for the kids. It's more of an event. So even though overall the film looked not an summer A title, it still would have been really good for theaters. And when that happened, a lot of theaters were willing to close down for the couple weeks, knowing that they were going to have a product there on the horizon. When that last movie got basically wiped out, that just caused a lot of despair among theater owners. So there was nothing to look forward to. There's no new films in April, basically.
Yeah.
And now May is very questionable because on the one hand, you may still have quarantine theater closures in May. You don't know how far from April that's going to extend. So say first part of May, you're looking at still mandatory closures. There's nothing been on the release schedule. Even if theaters were to get open, this is another big issue that has not been talked about. What is there to play? There's been no new releases for 5-6 weeks, and of the old stuff, it all went to digital right away. So there's nothing in the market to play to get people to even come back to the theater. So you may be able to open here in 3 or 4 weeks or 2 weeks, but you won't have any product to play. And that is, I think, as devastating as being told to shut down.
Yeah, I mean, I know that drive-thrus are kind of still able to make business for the time being, but right now they're kind of relying on the last few releases that just happened, or they may have to switch over to older movies. I think that would be kind of hard for theaters to open back up and like play older movies to like really encourage people to come back in. So it would probably have to be like the big releases that we were looking forward to already this year before they got pulled.
Because you got to have incentive. People are going to be kind of scared. They've been trained now for these weeks to avoid crowds. And so you're going to have a very hesitant consumer, and they're not going to want to just go out and risk their health for anything less than an event picture or something brand new that they can't get at home. There's got to be some behavioral incentive there to risk it. So I foresee theaters really struggling, even if they can be reopened, because of not having the product, having scared consumers. And there's really nothing you can tell them at this point. That it just sounds like noise when you go over your hand washing procedures and your cleanliness procedures, because everybody is doing that right now. Every company is doing that.
Yeah, Trolls was just a lighthouse that everybody was looking towards, like, this is when things are going to be okay. And then when they went VOD with it, it made it so that you're going to crash in the rocks if you play it. Because even if it shows up in your theater that has $10 tickets, a family of 4 is $40 to go. Yep. You can get it on VOD for $20.
Yep.
Or you play classic films or things that are already out and available, and you're just fishing. You're just hoping, you're way out from the coast now, and you're hoping that you're going to catch something that's reasonable. But in all reality, 99 times out of 100, you're going to be scrambling to make your minimums on those.
And on the old films, though, most film companies have either gotten rid of the minimum requirements and the per capita requirements, which means that there's not a ticket price requirement there, or they've greatly lowered the minimums and the terms. And that is helpful, but I guess if you can't make your minimum, like what the normal minimum was, you probably can't be paying the bills anyway. Afford to have employees there. So lowering the terms and stuff on something that's been so saturated in the digital marketplace is not going to be helpful to any theater moving forward.
No. And are you willing to risk what we have going on for a classic title, taking your family to a Back to the Future, something that you can pull up on TV? Absolutely not.
No.
It's not in the realm. And then after Trolls went VOD and day and date with theaters, then it was at least Black Widow's out there floating on the horizon.
In May. At
May
least we've got
1st. We have
something in
May
May.
1st. We have an opening of a month. It's spring. It's Disney tentpole.
The warm weather should be killing this virus.
And gone. Just like everything else.
So right now, if you're looking at the release schedule,
Looking at your scoreboard available on...
which we all are. So we're looking at our Silver Screen Insider scoreboards.
Good plug.
I made a little note on mine that said, because it just goes from March 13th to April 10th, because there were no new wide releases on the front of the scoreboard for the 20th or the 27th or April 3rd. So for 3 weeks, no new wide releases. Then Trolls, but that's going to be VOD. So really that's gone. Then there's no releases slated for the next couple weeks. We are really unsure about My Spy. We've tried to get clarification from STX. It is technically still on the release schedule. My suspicion is that they're going to do a VOD with it as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they've already been pushing that release back so many times. It's not even worth it to almost put it in.
They told us the Saturday before the Friday that they were pulling it in March. So
yeah,
it'll be a fun surprise when we find it on the schedule in early October. See you in October, STX.
I mean, that is possible too.
Which
if
is
they
crazy.
decide to not cut their losses, they might still push it back.
Because wasn't it a September
release, 2019.
Yeah, 2019, it was the September release.
Got bumped to October.
Then they bumped it, and then they bumped it again to March. Yeah.
Something like
to
that.
February?
It's been bumped several times, but yeah.
It's been all over the release schedule. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do VOD. They're a small company. They don't quite have a platform. See, Universal has their Peacock streaming platform, and because they're owned by Comcast.
Right.
And Disney has Disney Plus. So all these other location or film companies had platforms for streaming that they could use, and as well as going on Prime and Hulu and stuff. STX doesn't really have that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it still doesn't either gets moved or does a premium VOD.
I mean, Paramount has their deal. They kind of have a deal with Netflix to put some of their releases on there. And I know the Lovebirds, that was supposed to be scheduled for April. They decided to throw it up on there, so it should be up there.
Yeah.
I don't know when exactly, but it should be up there maybe by next month, I would imagine.
That was a $50-60 million budget, somewhere in that range probably.
Would have probably made its money back.
Yeah. Yeah, it was in a good spot, and with everything else moving off.
It was it was in a pretty good spot. It definitely only had its target audience. It was only going to work in urban centers. It really wasn't going to work in the heartland. But it was a rated R comedy at a good time of year where it would have done decent. It wouldn't have been great for everybody, but it would have done decent.
Yeah,
and
it would have been good counter programming to Bond.
Yeah, and now Paramount just threw it away on Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't their big money maker, but it would have been helpful for theaters, like regardless of what
would have been something.
Yeah, it would have been something.
So back to the release schedule. So March 20th, nothing. March 27th, nothing. April 3rd, nothing. April 10th, we have Trolls, but again, we talked about that's a wash. Then April 17th, we may have My Spy, but we're not really sure about that. And then April 24th, there's nothing. Then May 1st, there was nothing because Black Widow moved off. And then May 8th, there's really nothing. There's a couple films from Focus and what's the OTL?
OTL releasing.
What is that?
I think that's...
OTL
Oh,
releasing.
it is OTL?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
But I think those are...
It's possible those could be pulled.
Yeah, I think those are leftovers from platforming where it was New York, LA, but right now those are shut. So I have a feeling that those have just been kind of overlooked and will probably get pulled. Then on May 22nd, which is Memorial Weekend, what do you think? That kicks off summer. That is a big weekend kicking off summer. The only film we have right now is SpongeBob, and I really have my reservations that that's going to stay there.
Same.
I think a big issue is that post-production, like Ken said earlier, has been shut down. So unless the movie had already been done being edited, if there had been any finish work needed on it, they're going to have to push it back because it's just not going to be ready in time.
Yeah, that's what happened with Minions 2. They had to pull their July release date because they had people still working on the final cut, but you can't go and work on it, so
Right.
you have to stay home, and that means they had to pull it off. So it's probably going to happen with that.
Yeah, I think Scoob also moved off.
It did, yeah. Warner's pulled some of their releases, some of their more recent ones.
Right.
Um,
And Scoob is going to be a big kids movie for Warner's, and they really need that.
Yeah.
And then we've got at the end of May Artemis Fowl and a Focus title, Irresistible, which again Focus does in New York, LA, and then expands. So if New York and LA have issues, I don't know where we're going to be with that one.
Yep.
And then A24 had The Green Knight. So we're not looking till real films until June with Candyman and Greyhound. And that's only if, again, post-production doesn't affect them. They were done and they're ready to go, or they're able to make up whatever finishing work they needed to be done once this virus has gone through. But we don't know.
And Wonder Woman was supposed to be before that, even on
Yeah.
June 5th, but they just moved it to August, sometime in August.
August 14th.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So if you're a theater owner, you're closed down, you're kind of looking at the horizon. What is there? You realistically may not have actual real product till June.
Mm-hmm.
April's a wash, is completely gone now. May is looking very iffy. And if anything does come into May, it'll probably be closer to the end of May, hopefully by Memorial Weekend, because that would be a great time if the virus has run its course, if people are starting to tentatively get back, if enough theaters are open across the country. You just hope that Memorial Weekend we can put a big movie on it. And some of these films like Mulan, and what else has been pulled? Oh, Quiet Place.
Yep.
Those were done. Those were ready to go. They had pretty strong marketing. They can just be plunked right down. Just because they don't have a release scheduled date doesn't mean that they can't take the first available one if enough theaters open. I'm sure that the film companies right now are waiting for a minimum number of theaters across the nation to be open.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe that minimum number is 2,500 or 3,000, but whatever it is, if they can hit that minimum number, maybe they'll plunk down a big release during that time. And so there's kind of that hope that that may come around. But I think realistically, if we're going to be really conservative, we're looking end of May, beginning of June before any product. And then if you're a sub-run theater, I don't know what you're going to do, because there's been no product from March to maybe June, and you're not going to have a shot at it.
And you're only competing with VOD and Netflix at that point. So it's
real scary if you're sub-run or an intermediate house.
That's some tough sledding.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you go with. We're advising people to think way outside the box.
Yep.
Look for independent films, come up with film series of classic films. There's no good answer to this.
No.
It's surviving, it's customer service, it's reaching out to communities and groups and trying to find a way to keep your head above water until we get something worth playing.
Yeah, you should definitely be strategizing with your film buyer at this time. And any film buyer or anybody doing your booking should be talking to you about, letting you know that there just realistically doesn't look like there's product on the horizon, and what can you do in the meantime. At least have a plan for when you reopen. Have a plan, have an idea, find out what the minimum number of seats you need to occupy to make it work. Find out what the minimum ticket price is that you need to work with, and then, like Ken said, think way outside the box on this.
And before you ask, the original Top Gun is not available.
Apparently Paramount still has pulled it for Maverick.
Oh, did
That's
they?
the only thing.
Yeah, they pulled it. So the original Top Gun, they usually, when you have a sequel to something like Maverick or The First Quiet Place, they don't let you have that in theatrical exhibition. They either keep it for special events like Fathom events, or they'll do it in pre-selected locations for double features. So they pull it out of the
okay.
supply so that they can control it.
The funny one is Warner Brothers with Batman. Anytime there's anything around Batman, like we had Joker last fall, well, they pull out like the original Michael Keaton Batman because somehow you're going to play that in tandem with this.
Right.
Or the Val Kilmer Batman. Or any Lego Batman. They take everything in the Batman category and take it immediately out of circulation.
They just got to be sure.
And you know how we
never
know that?
know.
Because we have to look it up.
Because we have to look it up.
Because we have somebody somewhere request a Batman movie.
I would like to play Lego Batman to go on a double feature with Joker.
Batman Forever and Joker, the
Yes.
best double feature you can think of.
Give me any Batman
The
movie you
moodiest
can.
double feature you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Well, as like I'm wondering, like, as a bright spot to all this, like, once all these big products do end up going able to like start running theatrically, excuse me, it should probably give theaters like a sigh of relief, because I don't think VOD and Netflix is going to take away like the theaters completely. It's just a matter of being able to get yourself
as much
to
as
reopen
that
soon.
really sucks what Universal did, and believe me, it was backstabbing. That is a decision where they were taking advantage of theaters while everybody was down. I mean, that was a corporate decision and is so backstabbing. And I think it's super telling. Everybody's like, well, they took F9 and moved it to the next year. And so they're only doing this for this one film. I don't care if they move forward with it. You still backstab the theaters at that time. And I think John Fithian put it the best. He's the president of NATO. He said that we'll not forget this.
Oh, really?
And we won't. We will not forget that Universal, because they made the announcement to do this and the decision to do this before most of the theaters were closed. They could have waited, been perfectly fine, and been like, due to the closure of the theaters and our inability to move it on the release schedule, we have decided to make this decision. And then people might have been like, okay, but before all the theaters closed, you're like, oh, by the way, we're going to make this VOD.
Yeah, that was the issue. It wasn't that they were putting on VOD. It's when the theaters were still open.
Well,
they were going to do the same
part
day
of the
thing.
issue is that they could have just moved it back.
Sure.
So it was one thing to put like Bloodshot or The Hunt, something that had its release already and played in the theaters already. Putting that to VOD makes sense. You are trying to recoup some of that marketing cost and trying to get some of that back. That makes perfect sense. But to do it on a film that hasn't even come out yet, not even give it a chance for the theaters, and then to give it the theaters like a pity bone that's like, oh, well, you could play it at the same time, like what Netflix does, is cheap, and it's a low blow. And then to turn around and expect regular terms and minimums on it, and to not, at this point, have not had a conversation about lowering terms or minimums for whatever that's going to be. And then to, I know when F9 comes around, they're going to want a wide release. They're going to want a certain number of weeks and a certain minimums and high terms. And you're going to look at them and be like, where were you? Where were you when all the theaters, oh, you decided to make this film digital only. Like, that's where you'll not forget it. I don't know if it's worth playing Fast 9 next year.
Yeah.
I don't know how worth it's going to be. And I'm going to keep that with me in the back of my mind moving forward.
Yeah, that might have hurt them then. Might have hurt Universal for sure.
It'll be anything upcoming. That'll be the first thing on anybody's mind when there's a Universal title on the schedule. When it's Candyman and they want your location, it's like, okay,
I cannot trust.
I'll take it at minimum terms.
I will not trust them now that they won't just throw it on VOD.
Yeah. Why would we play something without a guaranteed window anymore? It doesn't protect the theaters to know that a week after a national release, they could do whatever they want with it.
Right.
The only reason the other film companies did this is because Universal did it and set a precedent.
Right. Now, I don't think that theater owners have to worry too much about like VOD replacing completely theaters. That's never going to happen. I feel very strongly about that.
Yeah.
But what this has done is just shown that the 90-day theatrical window is a thing of the past. That moving forward, I don't think that they're going to be able to keep the 90-day theatrical window. Whether it goes down to 30 days or less, I don't know. I would like to see a 60-day. I mean, 45 to 60 would be very, very preferable for the theaters. Unfortunately, I think that's still they've probably lost their opportunity for even that. And it may be just a 30-day window moving forward. I would hope that at the most, that's the biggest change that we'll have.
Yeah.
Going back to all of the challenges to theaters, whether it was cable television or home video or the advent of streaming or torrent and these things that came up, this virus and this change and the VOD day and dates are going to be the biggest litmus test for the theaters. When they come out on the other side of this, we'll know where we stand.
Yeah.
Starting from that point into forever. If the theaters can survive this, they will always be around in our lifetimes. They will always be a place for people to meet and experience something. There's no greater test that they've faced than this.
I don't think we'll have simultaneous VOD theatrical releases. There will be a window of some sort. I like it to be less than 30 days. I never want to see a less than 30-day window. Like, that is definitely the lowest point I would ever willing to go. That gives you 4 good weeks, which most movies in little towns don't go that long. So it's just the really big chains that are affected by a 30-day window. And as a consumer, we've talked about previously on the podcast, my feelings aside, I would like to be able to have 30 days out, be able to access the film at home. I mean, just from a consumer standpoint, that would be really nice.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go 30 days, they have to relax things like minimum week guarantees and term amounts, and there's going to be many things that are going to be relaxed.
They have to relax those restrictions, and they also have to increase print counts.
Absolutely.
I mean, if they are going to insist on shortening the window because they need to, because they want more direct-to-consumer business, then I think theaters need to, on the other hand, insist that they have higher print counts. I don't think it's fair or right for a studio to say, oh, we want it to play in theaters, but we're only going to let it play 30 days, but we only want 2,000 theaters. Yeah. And we only want the top 2,000 theaters. No, at that point, the window, you've trained consumers to know that the window is only 30 days long, 2 weeks out, fine. Like, it should go to anybody and everybody. You should never be able to limit the print. If a theater wants to play it, they should be able to have access to it. And it shouldn't matter what their per screen averages are or how much it costs the studio to make DCPs. That's all negligible at that point. You got your money in your short window and you let everybody have a chance at it, and then you blow it out to your digital platforms.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Not just with what we're facing now, but just for how movies have kind of been the last few years, just with how they've been able to play out. Like, we see them being able to play out mostly well for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then they kind of die off after a while.
That's the reality of it. And because of that, because they're dying off a couple, 4, 5, 6 weeks out anyways, when you limit the print count at the beginning of the run, by the time some of those theaters get a chance at it, there's no life left in it. There's no value.
It doesn't matter for the studio at that point.
Right. Well, and it hurts the theater because there's no value. Everybody has seen it in bigger cities or gone to see it somewhere else where they got it sooner, and that's wrong. And so if the argument is to be made that this is better for consumers because it gets to them, it gives them more options to view it, then you should be truly giving consumers more options by allowing more theaters to show it when you open it.
They care about the big opening numbers anyway. Why not just go full force with it?
Because they can't control that per screen average, and it's ridiculous. So
it's numbers in a database that somebody guaranteed someone or told them, hey, I think we can bump this up.
According to the charts.
I've got theaters that have quit being able to play Lionsgate titles on the break that used to, 10 years ago, because they have gone to these print plans and these comps, and they basically only play the same theaters. And I noticed before all this happened, when they were requesting dates on I Still Believe, they were requesting the most random locations because it was part of their quote print plan, and there was no talking with them or telling them where that film would actually work out and where the church groups would actually be supporting of it, because some of these locations had not played other Lionsgate titles. And it's like, come on, where's the common sense here? Where's the trust in the relationship when I say that this film would have played better in this other location? Where's the risk? It's all numbers now with them. And it's terrible to work with.
Yeah,
so
don't want to work with number crunchers.
No, so I'd like to see when theaters do reopen some changes with the way that was going. You know, we talk about like if theaters survive this, what's going to change, and everybody's worried about the windowing, but there were a lot of other issues with the booking and the print counts that was really slowly just strangling small town cinemas. And it would be nice if for the ones that survive this, if we could address some of those issues.
Is that going to be addressed between the studios and NATO, do you think, once everything kind of settles?
No, NATO can't. NATO, because of being a trade organization, they can't really negotiate on the behalf of all theaters.
Oh, okay.
So they can only have a certain percentage. It's like 80% of the market. It has to do with what is that?
Antitrust?
Yeah, stuff. They can't. They're hindered from negotiating on the behalf, and there's not really one entity that can tell. You know, like AMC throws its 600 locations or whatever, however many screens they have, like 3,000 or 2,000 screens, whatever it is. They can go to a studio and say, we're not going to play your product. And they can make that decision because they are in of themselves their own entity.
Yeah.
But when you only have the independents who maybe make up 20%, but they can't all get together and say, we're not going to show your product. Like there's not one power above them to make that call. And so they lose a lot of collective bargaining power because of that. And that's why studios are able to do what they do.
Okay.
Because there's no collective bargaining, because there's really no stakes in it. There's really no power to say we're not going to play your product.
So are we pretty much just hoping then that studios kind of realize that these changes might need to be done?
Yeah.
To satisfy.
Well, everybody's going to be hurt during this process.
Yeah. Right.
So you're trying to find a way to reinvigorate. And if you can sell your film for lower terms or at a better deal, it's going to get people in the theaters excited. People who own the theaters excited about getting your product on their screen.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you're going to make money upcoming.
Right. Well, and the thing is, studios need theaters for one of two ways. There's no way that they're going to make $1 billion on streaming. There's no way that Disney making Mulan and putting it on Disney Plus is going to make Disney $1 billion.
And people make that mistake quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, at $8 a pop on Disney Plus is not the same as getting a $20 IMAX ticket and getting 65% of that.
Yeah.
So that's how they need theaters for those releases. They also, what Netflix is finding is they need some theatrical runs because the movies that played in theaters are more legitimate, hold more value, and stream better on the platform. So if you want people to actually watch some of these movies for advertising purposes or whatever, you need it to have somewhat of a theatrical run to legitimize it in some way. So streaming will never replace the theaters, but we will see massive changes to the model.
Okay, we've said survive a lot. So what do you do if you're a small theater or a small circuit of theaters? How do you survive the next few weeks in getting through this? What are the steps or things you should look at doing?
Well, you definitely need to address your operational costs. You know, if that means letting employees go, heaven forbid, or cutting down some services, whatever it is, get creative. We've had several theaters still sell their concessions. You know, you want popcorn to watch the movie at home? We'll sell you popcorn. Just come to the front of the theater and we'll have somebody bring it out type of situation.
Drive-through service.
Yeah. And we've had some success with some theaters being able to at least bring some income in just by still selling their concessions. Because there really is no other popcorn like movie theater popcorn. So
and we stand by that.
And we do. Stand by 100%. You cannot make popcorn at home that tastes like movie theater popcorn. So keep your concession stand open. Get creative online with the advertising. Find ways to bring in some of that income back. And then look at some of that rescue relief loans out there, Small Business Administration loans. There's disaster relief loans. Definitely start looking into some of those because this has hit our industry so incredibly hard. And when you are looking into some of those loans, because we have had some clients that have started that process, they, want specific dates. So keep in mind, there were no new national releases since March 20th. Mm-hmm. So in your supply line, it got cut off March 20th. And then for your anticipated income stream moving forward, you realistically can say that there may not be any new product, new movies, which is the thing you sell, till end of May, beginning of June. So that gives you an idea in your paperwork, your anticipated income, and how long this is going to affect you. So keep those things in mind when they start asking questions. And then, you know what, you're just going to have to fight with the insurance companies. If you had business disruption insurance, civil closure insurance, it's just going to be having to fight with insurance companies. I had one client who had civil closure insurance be told that didn't, even though the state told him he had to close and he has insurance for when that happens because it's a disaster, that germs didn't count, that a disaster based off germs didn't count, that it only counted if the state closed because of a natural disaster or some other reason, like the government blocked all the streets so they couldn't get customers in. And it's just insurance companies trying to weasel out of your policies. So you got to stay on them and, stay on it tight and just try to get some assistance, some relief.
Yeah, the last thing I'd mention is to talk to any and all vendors, lien holders, anybody, any film companies that you have cashier amounts with. Speak with everybody. Everybody's there's not one person that we can even think of in a fictional situation that's not affected by this. So reach out to everybody.
And just say, that obviously the film companies are going to want to be paid in this time. They're really not looking to be not being paid right now. And how could you possibly pay them if you're closed and have no money coming in? It's just absurd. Mm-hmm. But you got to keep in mind that, like with Warner's, it's owned by AT&T now. AT&T was a phone company and they're used to getting money up front. You pay your bill to be able to access your phone. And they may take that same mentality now and apply it to films. And who knows what's going to happen moving forward. So, just keep in mind that these aren't the studios of 10 and 15 years ago. These are now major corporations and they don't care. They want to get paid right now. So whatever you can do to work out with the other vendors, you got to make sure that you're up to date on your film rental, because I don't foresee them being very nice to you at the end if you don't pay for months on end.
Nope. But you have to get a payment plan in place, be forthright about when payments are being sent, amounts that are being sent. Do your due diligence, but do it now. Don't wait for 60 days when we finally have a film on the release schedule and they have already taken you off service because they are not willing to. As
film buyers, we've got to also try to figure out a solution with the film companies moving forward, because the reality is you don't have money. You don't have money to pay. There's no income coming in. You can't even probably pay your taxes right now. There's just nothing there. Mm-hmm. So we need to move forward with this idea that when theaters are able to reopen, that they're not going to have money for advances. They're not going to have money to pay old balances before they get the film. So the tactics that film companies had used to keep you paying your bills aren't going to work, really.
Yeah.
So what are they going to say? Like, well, we'll take you off service if you don't pay that. Great. My theater's closed. I'm already off service right now. So the reality is that the film companies have to allow the theaters to open, have to give them product to be able to make money to pay back. But we need to really work with them to try to find a solution to where you can start paying old film rental and new film rental, even if it's payments every week out of, ahead of time. Because what our goal is to try to not get theaters not advanced and not have to pay old balances ahead of time. Because if you've not made money in 3 months, how could you possibly pay an advance or an old balance before you got the product to be able to pay them back with?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So we'll see if that even works or what happens with that. And that might be the death knell for a lot of theaters, is if the film companies hold strong to the idea that you have to have a clean account before you can get any more product. I don't know how theaters are going to come up with that money.
Not right away, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, if you can't play movies, how would you ever get the money?
Yeah.
So you definitely may be looking at loans at some point. And so you need to go over all your options with that. And luckily the federal government just passed a huge stimulus bill. So there will be some money for some loans out there. I don't know if it'll get down far enough to little theaters or individual theaters, but I think everybody should make a shot at it and try.
Yeah, definitely should.
Yep. Keep checking your local SBAs, local Better Business Bureaus, local city and county governments to see what's available.
To see if you can get a grant
Do
or
all
something
of your
from the
research.
local government.
Don't stop looking. Make sure you look at the same time every day, so you create a pattern of research.
Yeah, if you're a theater in a small town and you're the only, entertainment venue in that town, I think it's totally reasonable to go to the city and say, can I get a loan, or can I get some tax relief, or can we do something to make sure I don't close and then I can stay in business for the community? Because theaters really are community centers. And we saw this in the digital changeover when everybody had to do the digital upgrade. A lot of communities rallied because they didn't want to lose their theater. Well, that may happen again. Right now, the theaters are in trouble. And so we may need communities to rally and help them in this time with some relief, whether that's loans or tax relief.
Yeah, and that's why it's so helpful in the first place to make sure that your theater is reaching out to the community.
Yeah, definitely reach out. Definitely let the community know that you're struggling, which is hard because there's so many businesses struggling, and it really isn't fair. It's not just theaters, it's retail shops, it's the food and beverage industry is taking a hit, tourism is taking a hit. There's so many businesses that are affected by this. But I think you need to, fight for these community venues.
Yeah, definitely should. That could help.
And we're just going to hope that, this virus passes, that life begins to return to normal, and they drop Mulan or something in our laps or Quiet Place on Memorial Weekend. And
one of them has to drop.
Yeah. And we get a good bump, and that's, what we can hope for. But,
yep.
As the theaters are closed and you guys are doing what you can to survive and keep the theater up and make all your payments, and you have 100 things on your plate, just know that your film buyer also is working. They're fielding phone calls from the studio still, and they're trying to ward them off from trying to get, harass you for payments. And it's tough for everybody, because if the theaters aren't making money, we're not making money, but we still need to work on your behalf. So it's definitely a challenging time right now.
Pay your film buyer first.
Yeah, that's all we can hope for, is that everything returns to normal. But in the meantime, everyone's just able to cooperate and get by as much as we can.
Stay healthy too,
Yes, especially that.
And also stay informed. Subscribe to silverscreeninsider.com for all updated.
We're trying to keep it as updated as much, but it's just changes so rapidly. I mean, we had to keep track of the theater closures across the U.S., and I had to make a master list of what the closure reasons were in all of the states, and because we have clients all over the U.S. And sometimes, it was just hour by hour if a governor was going to declare a state of emergency and make a restrictive shutdown. And there's no time for the theater to always call us and be like, I got shut down. So I had...
Yeah, they have to go, keep doing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just been so crazy and so scary.
Yeah.
But for a low monthly tax deductible fee, how much is the subscription fee to Silver Screen Insider again?
$25 a month.
$25 a month?
Good
And
seat.
it's tax deductible because it's a business expense?
Right?
You
Oh
said
my
it.
Gosh.
What a deal.
What a deal.
Deal of the day.
No.
All right, now that we're giggling, onto the brighter side of things.
Yeah.
Cody, how was Singing in the Rain?
Oh my gosh.
Cody!
I know. It's so bad.
I watched it.
You did?
Of course
How
I
was
did.
it?
Oh, it's delightful. It still is delightful. It actually
what happens in it?
Hey,
it
don't
really-
don't say
Oh, I'm
a
not gonna.
spoiler alert.
No, I'm not doing that.
I spoiled Black Widow stuff. for
Apparently,
Kyle,
there's leaks of Black Widow.
and I read them to Kyle.
She just read them all on the list. Had no place to
No.
stop that at all.
No, Eric's not here.
So hopefully,
Kyle's at my mercy.
it's at least gonna be paused enough to where I forget about that experience.
Yeah.
Hopefully the virus gets into him and erases that part of his brain.
I
Yeah,
don't know
it-
how with his gloves and his.
Oh, I'm well protected now, but I don't know. After those leaks, I might take them. No, I'm kidding.
I told him that he should get leather driving gloves and like a nice scarf and like sunglasses
To go with the Ridgeline I'm driving.
Yeah.
The perfect match.
Ridgeline. I mean, well, if he's going to be a glove aficionado, he should have different sets.
Oh, what makes you think I don't have more than one set?
As punishment, I'm going to let Kyle select another movie that you get to watch over your with your quarantini this weekend.
Oh my gosh. I know.
I should make it a brutal one.
I've been
You
so
should-
quarantined.
You're not going to see her next week.
Well,
Yes,
yeah.
we're confined
we have a
to our
shelter in place
residences.
order, so yeah, we may not be here next week.
She'll forget about it by the time you see her
I
next.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I
make
would
it
choose
brutal.
a movie, but at that point, she'll forget.
Oh my gosh. It's not that I forgot. It's just that I have been working so hard on trying to get my house completed before something like the shelter in place happened and we couldn't get workers into the house anymore.
That you forgot all about it.
I did. I completely forgot. So
You
bad.
started that by saying it's not that I forgot.
No, I forgot.
I'm just trying to figure out how mean Kyle's going to be. If he's going to be Rosebud.
I
Mean. Or Martin Scorsese mean.
oh. Please no
Or-
rape.
I'm
rape
really
movie mean.
I'm really debating about what it could be right now. Too bad I don't have to list on me.
Or Adrian. Mean. Or
How about Rocky 4 mean?
Maybe the first Rocky.
Rocky 4 is not on AFI's top 100 list.
It's the first one,
It may-
even.
It is.
Okay,
It
good.
absolutely is. Number 1 is.
Have you seen number 1?
No.
No, she hasn't really even seen number 4
all
that she
No.
just claimed.
Okay.
Sort of. I think I've seen number 4.
Yeah, but you said that about Singing in the Rain too. So
I have a memory of watching Singing in the Rain in high school, sophomore year, in art class for something, but I don't remember what happened in the movie. I just remember being in class and writing notes.
I had
and-
a poor substitute teacher and watched Jurassic Park in a biology class.
That's awesome.
So your memory is not going to hold up here.
I know, but that's why I'm like, yeah, I've seen it because of that memory.
But you
Okay.
really should though, because it will cheer you up. Oh, he knocked over a toy.
Oh,
I know.
Because it's the pick me up I need. Because I was so sad that there's no movie theater to go to. But once I got into watching Singing in the Rain, I immediately perked my spirits up.
well, I've watched Onward like 6 times. I know I'm not very, very good. Part of me wanted to be like, no, Disney, I'm not going to watch your movie that should be in theaters right now. But then I have children at home.
Yeah, but the children are like,
I'm like,
we don't care.
Let's try Onward. And then I had to watch it 6 more times because they loved it.
Just one of those viewings. Just
Right.
sit down with them and make them watch a little bit of Singing in the Rain.
By the way, Onward really isn't a very great Pixar movie.
it's
Like,
middle of the pack.
I think it's on the lower end.
Oh, really?
We talked about this. I think that they should have gone way more into the fantasy aspects of it. Like,
I agree. Yeah.
like it's supposed to be modern day conveniences in a fantasy world, but they didn't. They made it too much like our world, and it looked too much. And it was that they should have gone way more into the fantasy. There should have been way more fantasy secondary characters, because the ones that were there were a little blah.
Yeah.
And you and I disagreed on this, but I think the dad should have come to life sooner in the movie, and then they should have had some time with it, with him, because I just didn't enjoy the trouser pants walking around as much as I thought I would. They didn't get in as many funny situations with it as I thought they would. So I rather would have had the dad there.
Yeah. I disagree with you on that. It just works for the emotional beats of the movie for me.
Now that she has disagreed with you publicly, Kyle, what's it gonna be?
Oh, stop it. We don't need to. He's just trying to punish me. And Kyle is so scared and awkward in the middle of it.
I'm trying to rattle through my head. I still want you to watch Sea in the Ranks. It's so darn good.
I will.
I'm going to lay down the law with this one. You have to see it.
Oh, Kyle's laying down the law.
Kyle with the gloves.
With the gloves.
This is what happens with the gloves. It changes me.
It feels so powerful. It feels like Thanos over here.
we should take a picture and put this on social media. The gloves, like that's gonna protect him. Our office has like 6 people in the whole office.
Any one of you
So
nasties
Three of them
could
are
have caught
in here
it.
right now.
We need to take a picture and put it on social media. How old do you sound right now?
I've aged being at home.
Watch Singing in the Rain and put things on social media. Do it now. With your Geritol.
Oh,
That's still my recommendation to
okay.
you.
Do you have a glove recommendation for me?
I don't know what that means.
Well, should I wear a work glove, a leather glove, plastic gloves?
I would advise you to if you go into town.
Oh, lunch lady gloves.
What are lunch? Isn't that just the
Big yellow gloves.
Oh, the big yellow
Yeah.
ones?
No, like the plasticky ones that are like
The
that
latex ones?
That look like sausage fingers. No, latex are like doctor gloves.
Oh.
There's a lot of glove talk. I think we've run our course on this
Oh my
I
episode.
gosh.
agree. Thank
Yeah.
you, Ken.
Well, what else do we got to talk about?
Well, it's definitely not more glove talk, please.
Should I tell everybody the spoilers I read online for Black Widow?
I strongly advise you to not do
And on that note,
Yeah.
please visit silverscreeninsider.com. Kyle,
We get to see a picture of Kyle with his gloves on there.
It may pop up. We'll see.
We're getting desperate for content. I will say that on the scoreboard, it was really, really kind of sad. So our scoreboard consists of 2 pages. The first page is all the wide releases, and it gives you the distributor, the format, the ratings, the runtime. The second page is a half a page of limited releases, and then it gives you some stats on the other half of the page, like the top 10 films for the weekend. Depending upon when you print the scoreboard, the weekends change, and then VOD, DVD, and subrun availabilities. Well, I looked at the top 10 films for the weekend of March 20th through the 22nd. And last year we had Us and Captain Marvel and Wonder Park and 5 Feet Apart and How to Train Your Dragon. And it was over $100 million weekend. I mean, Us was $71 million and Captain Marvel was 34. So just between those 2 films, it was like $100 million weekend. And this year, I don't even know how it came to like what the top 10 was, because it was Onward, Invisible Man, Bloodshot, and they made nothing. No, there was no money made.
Well,
it says 0.1 per one, because I think some theaters were still open.
There might have been like a very small few.
100,000.
Yeah.
And that might have been rounding it up.
Mm-hmm.
But to have a number there. But yeah, nothing. It just I think shows the devastation in our industry.
It's amazing what happens in a year.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So check out the scoreboard. We'll keep watching
this
it.
has been the Animal House of Weeks 0.0.
All right. Well, we hope that you all are staying healthy, that you're not losing your minds being shut in, and that you're there listening to us in our podcast, because we're here risking Kyle's life with his gloves.
Thank you.
To do it, to read it to you.
Thank you, Cody.
And hit us up on our Facebook page underneath this podcast with your list of movies that Cody will also not watch.
Yes, please, fire away.
Are they like punish movies? Like
movies
to punish Cody
brutal
with?
movies for her to watch.
The heavy dramas that she will not want to see.
That sounds horrible.
Or like Planet 9, something terrible that nobody wants to watch.
Oh, but that would be hilarious to watch, though. Planet 9's hilarious.
M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. Give her something terrible that she does not want to watch.
I watched The Village.
I'm
Is
so
that
sorry.
the one where the people had the monsters, then it turned out to be the council, the elders in the village, because they were trying to keep everybody on this nature preserve.
Yep,
Yeah.
sounds about
Yeah,
right.
and then they sang in the rain with umbrellas.
Stop
Yeah,
it.
the same movie.
I saw that. And they kept them all under the floorboards, but they kept it like 1800s, but it was modern day. They were on nature preserve.
Let's just try and not
I think
remember
M. Night
that one.
Shyamalan did a cameo where he was the guy.
He cameos in all of them.
Yeah. Does he?
Oh, yeah.
I just remember he was the guy at the end that was like patrolling the nature preserves. And she like stumbles out of the woods. She's like, "Where am I?" Okay.
Well, we won't. Maybe we'll show you that one. Who knows? As long as they recommend it.
Next week on Cody's partially remembered movie reviews.
I should do more of those. Guys, remember this part?
Maybe that's just what the segment's going to be every month. It'll just still be partially remembering stuff.
Yeah, because I probably will not have watched Singing in the Rain. I think the other night I made an effort to sit down. I was like, I'm going to watch it. And then I got distracted with like Netflix stand-up comedy. Which there's been 2 good stand-up comedians put specials out on Netflix. I was very
But
excited.
Netflix is terrible and they ruin movie theaters and we hate them.
Yes, exactly.
I
Boo.
don't watch movies on Netflix. Are you kidding me? Like, please. That would never happen. So if Singing in the Rain is on Netflix, garbage. I'll never watch it. But I will enjoy a stand-up comedian on Netflix.
Big
So,
difference.
Big difference.
Big difference.
Have a great week, everyone.
Yeah. Everyone, be safe.
I've not
be
been
healthy.
let out of the house for a couple of weeks, so I'm excited to be around people again.
This counts. The podcast counts for this.
Yes, it counts for me.
All right.
I don't want to go.
All right. Until next time.
Okay, good luck, everyone. Bye.